Welcome everyone to the CG and J podcast. We are back post NFL draft, and it was an absolute crazy one. We got so much stuff to talk about. Jacob, what was your reaction to the draft? How are you feeling?
It was one of the craziest drafts I've ever seen in my life, and I was like blown away. Punch after punch after punch of just crazy action going around the league with the trades, with the just the trades, the picks that were made. It was just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And the players the Ravens picked up too. So
the Ravens got some great players from this year's draft, and we're going to talk about it. And let's, with our first topic, let's just dive straight into it. Winners, losers, favorite picks, and sleepers of this year's NFL draft. And boy, there's a lot of options you can go with this one. Your Ravens are obviously in the mix for winners of the NFL draft. There are some losers, players that have lost that are not in as good position as they were before the draft. Teams as well. So let's start with the W's. Let's start with the winners. Who won the NFL draft in your opinion?
It's I can't really pick one team just because there's just so many teams that really, really benefited from.
I do have an honorable mention too
from this draft. I mean, when you say winners, that's plural. So I mean, it's kind of like because it's plural for a reason. I mean, think about the Jets had a great draft. I mean, the Eagles, even though they didn't draft anyone with their first round pick, the very first round pick, they still got AJ Brown, who is a solid player.
Brandon's still crying right now from that.
And they got Jordan Davis, great player, who I thought was going to be a Raven, but it's all right. I'm not upset about it, actually. At first, I was kind of like, what in the world? Kind of mad at the Eagles for doing that.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. But and they also got Nakobe Dean. But my winner, singular winner, I would have to go with my Ravens. I mean, the amount of talent we got. I mean, there's bias. And okay, this is the one time I'll be biased about my team because of what we did. The only thing that went wrong, some people might debate, is the Hollywood trade, but even still, I think we won this trade. Won this draft because we left the draft with 2 first-round picks, and it's debatable with David Ajabo being the talent level he is that he's not a first-round talent that went in the second round.
Right.
Just because of the injury and everything. So, but yeah, my winner, definitely the Ravens. I mean, Travis Jones, people had him mocked at number 1.
Right.
And I mean, not at 1, but in the first round.
Yeah.
And he ended up in the third round. And it was just, I just was blown away by the tape I saw from him. And also Daniel Falele, one of the biggest guys in the whole draft, I think, if not the biggest. He's 6'8", 368 or something.
Damn.
Or no, it's 386 actually.
Yeah, I remember watching. I was like, what the heck?
I know.
Those measurables are insane.
A Goliath of a man. I mean, obviously he needs some technique here and there, but we picked up players that will fit our system perfectly.
Yes.
And play like Ravens. And not only that, but I think, Kyler Linderbaugh, I think, that pick really, was the helper pick for Lamar. Because I think, Lamar, seeing one of your best friends go is kind of difficult. But I mean, in
the end, you didn't waste a pick. You didn't waste a pick, and you didn't waste a draft.
Yeah, well, also just in the end, I'm not upset like some Ravens fans are just because Marquise Brown wanted out. It would be one thing if we traded him and Marquise still wanted to be there. You know what I mean? There's a big difference there, and that's what I see. But yeah, I got the Ravens.
Yeah, I think the Ravens, similar to our organization, the Steelers, they're not a organization that's gonna, beg a player to say, I mean, if you want out, get out. They'll find a way to make do without you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, but I really think Hollywood Brown, did he live up to expectations? I don't know if you can really say that either. I think he had a good year last year, but he was never, a great receiver. He was never a true number one. I mean, last year we were still talking about the Ravens going into that draft, 2021, about drafting a wide receiver, So I don't think it's a huge loss, but I think it's a loss in general,
I agree.
and not enough for me to give them the winner of the draft at all.
I get that. That's fair.
I do like Kyle Hamilton a lot. Y'all secondary is insane. Marcus Peters comes back. But mostly y'all just going to be a good team just by getting healthy. I think, a lot of last season, J.K. Dobbins too was great in 2020.
I think that's a great point. Yeah.
I mean, you're going to be a better team by default next season if all these guys come back. So, this is a scary draft. I'm as a Pittsburgh fan, does not like it at all. But I think they're definitely up there. But for me, it was the Philadelphia Eagles. You're talking about a team that flipped the narrative. I mean, this team, going into this offseason was seen as, they might make some noise. They might make it to the playoffs again if Dallas, wets the bed. But, we're not going to expect too much. And they come from a team that's, extremely overlooked to a team that's now in contention to win the division.
Well, not just win the division, win the NFC. I mean, think about it. How many teams are in the NFC that are like, okay, yeah, this team, like
4 or 5.
Yeah, the AFC is so like
NFC.
I know. But the AFC is
okay.
all the talent switched to the AFC. So now the NFC is left with like 3 or 4 dominant teams, but the AFC has like 8 to 10 dominant teams. So it's kind of like NFC is kind of like up in the air, and AFC is AFC is up in the air, and NFC anyone can win.
I think that's why they were so aggressive too. You get a veteran receiver like AJ Brown to pair up with Devontae Smith, who I thought was really good for them last year.
Yeah.
Traded above your Ravens for Jordan Davis. I thought that was a great pick too. And then they have the steal of the draft in Nakobe Dean. A linebacker that's physical. I know there was probably some. I think some off the field issues.
It was an injury.
Okay. I thought I couldn't remember. It was one of those two, but still, now they're in contention with Dallas, who has lost a lot of players from last year. So I really did like their draft, and I really liked the way they approached things, and I really did love that AJ Brown trade. I did, I think a lot of teams probably wouldn't have done it. Hey, man, we'll get our next receiver in the draft. We'll get a 20-year-old, 21-year-old to come in and play that number one receiver role, which is just not realistic for a lot of teams. And so go out there, get you a proven player, a proven commodity for Jalen Hurts that he has chemistry with over the offseason. I mean, the Eagles just really hit it out of the park. I think a team that can be in that conversation, I think, is the New York Jets. I thought they did a really good job, too.
Yeah.
Got the best tight end in the draft with Jeremy Rockett, Garrett Wilson, Sauce Gardner as well, to pair with Jeff Okudah. I really did like this draft for the Jets too, in terms of them taking it up another notch to compete a little bit with the Bills, maybe, and maybe even be a great rival this year with the Patriots. I like what Detroit did as well. I thought Aiden Hutchinson and Jameson Williams is a great pick too. But, none of these two teams, the Jets or Detroit, really changed the narrative around their football team like the Eagles. So that's why I got Philly number 1.
And I also want to give some spotlight to the New York Giants as well, actually.
Right.
Both New York teams did a great job. I mean, the Giants didn't do as well on the back half of the draft, but they really did hit hard with Evan Neal and Kayvon Thibodeau. I think as their first round picks.
There's still some questions around Kayvon Thibodeau. I like his game. I like his game. I like his game. I like his attitude. But I know a lot of other teams, maybe not as big of a fan as maybe the Giants were on him. So But I think that these teams above the Giants, the teams that I mentioned, I think this is a lot more, in my opinion, like guarantee impact players. Maybe besides the New York Giants, who I like their draft. Don't get me wrong, I really like their draft, but I think I might have to put these three teams above them in terms of impact. But let's flip the coin. What team lost this draft? What team you think was coming out of it like, man, you really should have done a lot better? I'm interested to hear your team because I know I got
Yeah,
one.
there's only one team that really lost. It's the New England Patriots. I mean,
I was, yep.
or I mean, another honorable mention is the Packers, just because the decision makings that they make. A lot of times end up like they pick guys that are like could go later, and it's like kind of like, what are you doing? But I mean, it typically ends up to better them, I guess. But my big loser is the New England Patriots.
Talk about it. Talk about it.
Bill Belichick's got to go as GM. I mean, he's a great coach, best coach, one of the best coaches
Best
ever,
coach ever. Yep.
best coach ever. Yeah, and he just wets the bed when it comes to
Yeah.
the draft. I mean, it's like these picks. I'm like, what is he doing? What is he thinking here? Like, I mean, sometimes I'll come back and be like, this guy's a genius.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the time in recent years, it's been really, really negative.
Yeah.
I mean, N'Keal Harry, think about the year that they got him. I mean, that
Oh,
was
oh.
that was like, what are they doing?
AJ Brown and DK Metcalf was still on the board.
I know, I know, I know. It's just like the history doesn't doesn't give him credit either. The
Yeah.
recent history doesn't give him credit. So it's like the Rams, the Rams with Sean McVay, saw how Bill Belichick draft Cole Strange out of Chattanooga, and the Rams responded by laughing, and they were like, "We were thinking about him in the third round," and it was just kind of like, what are the Patriots thinking? What are the Patriots thinking? But yeah, my loser is definitely the New England Patriots.
Yeah, I think that's definitely my clear cut loser as well. Bill Belichick caught sleeping at the wheel once again, and another NFL draft. And this has just been a consistent narrative with him. I think you can argue the last 10 years he's been pathetic in terms of drafting
Oh yeah,
players, especially early in the first couple of rounds.
yeah, for
Strange.
sure.
A lot of teams had what's his first name? The offensive line they took, last name Strange,
Cole Strange
Cole Strange. A lot of teams had him kind of early,
in the
as
third.
top in the third round. But I
Yeah,
know I heard a couple of teams that really were high on him. So he wasn't the only
yeah,
one
yeah.
that was high on Cole
That's
Strange.
that's true. That's true. He was
But
like second or third. He was like
yeah,
second day
right. But
draft pick.
Tyquan Thornton over my guy George Pickens, Sky Moore, and David Bell. I mean,
I know.
I don't understand that one.
George
Um,
Pickens is going to be really good. And I was really disappointed to see the Steelers got him.
Yeah, and then you took two running backs. I mean, what are we doing here? And then in addition to that, you took a quarterback,
Yeah,
Zabin, and in the fourth round. After
and
Mac,
he was projected to go undrafted.
right
And, and
after Mac Jones leads you to the playoffs. I mean, that's just borderline disrespectful to me. I mean, I just don't understand this guy. I don't understand his vision. Is your vision to have competition, or is your vision to have a complete football team? I get that. You want positions to compete. You want to have competitive wide receiver rooms and running back rooms and quarterback rooms. But at some time, you have to have a holistic view of your football team and say, hey, I need to bring in players here, to make the football team overall better. And I think this Bill Belichick, in my opinion, is so focused on having competition and having multiple options instead of having the depth at every single position, and filling those needs that the Patriots have so they can potentially compete with the Bills to win a division,
yeah,
And so I look at this draft, I'm like, well, you came out maybe even arguably a little bit worse, because like these were not picks and these were not really needs that your quarterback, not your quarterback, that your football team had. And so I really was disappointed with that QB pick in the fourth round, honestly, because I thought there was a lot of talent there that could have really done a lot better. But I think that's what Bill Belichick values now after post Tom Brady era, competition at every position.
Yep.
Which I like, but I think sometimes with that goal in mind, you sometimes sacrifice good value. So I think for me, it's the New England Patriots, and it's not even close in my opinion. You could throw in Dallas, you could throw in the Cowboys,
Yeah.
They got a
Yeah.
lot of projects as their picks. I don't agree with Jerry Jones when he said that this draft could have a much as impact on the team as last year's draft, because they did not draft a Michael Parsons type player. So I think that was just a flat out lie. So you can throw in the Cowboys in this conversation too. But for me, I was really hoping the Patriots would have done a lot better in this draft class, and they came out as I think big losers, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Moving on, let's go to some favorite picks. What was some picks that you kind of just like, whoa, that was really, really, really good in this year's draft?
Devin Lloyd, Jags selecting Devin Lloyd. I thought that was a great pick for them. And they came back into the first round to get him. And I think that just shows a lot of confidence in his talent level and the way he plays. And I like Devin Lloyd. I think he was by far the best linebacker in this class. And I think he's one of the most athletic guys in this class in general.
Yeah.
I think the other linebacker, Nakobe Dean, going to the Eagles. I think that was a steal. The only reason he fell that far is because of the injury to his shoulder. That he, didn't get surgery for. I think, everyone was shocked. I think these QBs falling to the third and fourth rounds was kind of surprising as well. I mean, I know QBs weren't like a huge factor in terms of need this year, especially since a lot of the QBs in this league are on like prove it deals right now, where they need to prove it before teams think about drafting someone else. And not only that, the talent level of these QB classes was kind of unknown. But I think a lot of teams got some good sleeper QBs in later rounds, which was kind of surprising. Like, I mean, Desmond Ridder, like the whole third round was kind of like surprising that all of them fell that far. But yeah, I mean, I think Kyle Hamilton falling to number 14 to my Ravens was a huge sleeper pick. And I think also David Ajabo falling all the way to my Ravens as well. I mean, I knew he got injured. Even still, though, I think, the talent that is there. I just think the Ravens got a lot of good sleeper picks. It was like a surprise that the player fell that far to the Ravens, I guess.
Right. I agree with that a lot. I'm gonna go with a biased pick. I really did like my man George Pickens out of Georgia for us.
I do too. I do too.
I really did. We lost guys like Juju Smith-Schuster. We lost James Washington. So we did need some depth there. But to have another guy with his versatility, he has great body control, great speed. I think he's a good route runner as well. And I think he's going to be a day one impact type player. I
think he was the best second round wide receiver in this class. I mean, by far, like tier 2 wide receiver. Yeah,
and I'm glad we got him. And I think he's and the way our offense is run. I think he's going to fit in quite well. Yeah. And I think especially with Deontay Johnson too. I really do like this pairing. So and Chase Claypool as well. So I'm liking how our receiver core is looking. So I think I got to go with George Pickens. That was one that I know Obviously Steelers fan is going to make me excited anyways, but I really did like that pick for us.
Yeah, Kenny Pickett throwing him the ball.
Yep. And I think our last topic under this NFL draft was sleeper pick. We kind of addressed this one. I said Nakobe Dean. I think you said Nakobe Dean also. So I think we covered that one pretty well so far. But all right, let's get in a little bit more. Let's talk a little bit more depth with these NFL
basically,
teams.
my favorite picks honestly were probably my sleeper picks, just because it's like just great opportunity, like great places for players that most people just had higher and just fell perfectly in place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I felt like that happened a lot this year. Like even with the Steelers getting George Pickens, like I think that fell perfectly for the Steelers. The Steelers are always great at drafting wide receivers as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, if I'm a Steelers fan like you are, I would be excited.
Yes, and indeed I am.
Yeah,
I wish we had Brandon here to talk about this, but we got to do it anyways. The Titans, man. The Titans made a big move in the draft as we talked about earlier, trading their star receiver, A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown logged in 3,000 yards, 24 touchdowns in just 3 seasons with Tennessee. Ryan Tannehill commented on the trade stating, "It hurt. Professionally, it hurt. He's a heck of a football player, and personally, it hurt. A.J.'s a good friend." Mel Kiper rated the Titans draft class a B. However, the controversy doesn't stop there, as they drafted the praised Malik Willis in the 3rd round after signing Tannehill to a big deal in 2020. So, how should the Titans be viewed after this draft, Jacob? Brandon's probably listening.
I would say they should be viewed as rebuilding right now. Actually, I know that might sound crazy.
Because, number one team in the AFC last year, just for perspective.
In the AFC, but the players that they picked up, the players that they traded. I mean, think about it. They trade their number 1 wide receiver to the Eagles because they don't want to pay him.
Get a little bit closer to the mic, Jacob, just a little bit.
Yeah, they don't want to pay him. The money he deserves because they believe that they could find his talent in another player. Which, don't get me wrong, I think Treylon Burks is like, out of anyone in this wide receiver class, I think Treylon Burks represents A.J. Brown the most, and Deebo Samuel, which I like Treylon Burks. I think he's one of my favorite wide receivers in this draft, actually. Probably up number 2, just because the athleticism he brings. Like, he can run the ball. He can do anything, honestly. You can use him like Deebo if you wanted to. But and I don't want to, like, say what I'm saying now to, like, diss on Treylon Burks, because I think Treylon Burks is gonna be good. But I don't know. I think when you get a generational player like AJ Brown, you gotta find ways to keep him and pay him. I mean, there's contract talk about only giving him like he wanted like $25 million per year for 4 years, which would be like $100 million, which he ended up getting for from the Eagles, but he didn't even get offered $15 million per year. He only got offered $15 million per year by the Titans for the same amount of time.
And listen, with all this wide receiver moves have already been made, the market has gone up. You can't pay AJ Brown $15 million a year. That's just not enough.
Yeah, no,
that's just not enough.
Yeah, I know he's too talented to pay that little as well. It just almost seems disrespectful,
right?
But and then with Malik Willis, I love this. I was ecstatic. I was so happy for Brandon as well, considering this is like Brandon's dream pick.
I think Brandon found a new Mariota. I really did. You'll be hearing Mariota talk.
Well, the thing is, he would probably would have ended up buying a Malik jersey no matter where he went. Yeah, but now that he's on the Titans, he's getting that jersey. But I don't think Tannehill reacted well to Malik and And I think, I could see Malik playing at the I could see him playing in the middle. Like I could see Tannehill starting the season, but I could see Malik finishing the season. But at the same time, it's like one of those things. Was like uh Malik, like Malik's just in a weird situation because like you're looking at it and you're like he could either not play in 2 years or he could take over at the end of this year. You know what I mean? It's like
Right. Right.
there's no really timetable where you can like implement Malik. Like the Titans are in the perfect situation where they can just put him in whenever they want.
Yeah. 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 I had similar thoughts too, Jacob, on that one. And quite honestly, I think they're easily probably the biggest team, the biggest fall off for any team in the NFL, comparing them to last year. Number one seed last year, they won't be that in 2022. But
Brandon's gonna take that clip right there and he's gonna save that.
It's not going to happen. I'm very
he's gonna make a Titans
Go
hype
ahead
video.
and clip it. Go ahead and clip it. It's not
He's
going
gonna take a
to
he's
happen.
gonna make a he's
No.
gonna make a Titans hype video off of that after they win the number one seed.
Nope. I think they'll still be okay, but they're not going to be the number one seed if we're being realistic.
Yeah.
And I think they have big QB drama after this. And I think Ryan Tannehill put himself in a bad position with that response. Because now you're going to get reporters that are going to be like, hey, Tannehill doesn't want Malik to come in. How is that going to work out? And it just instigates a whole bunch of stories and a whole bunch of I guess you kind of say negative spotlight that you just don't want on this ball club after the year that they had, after the offseason that they had.
Why would you even like say that like about someone with the character that Malik has? I mean,
and I think I get it. I see it in two different ways. From a competitor's standpoint, I get it. They drafted a quarterback. You still want to have a job here, So at some degree, you don't want to like, hey, I'm just gonna, kind of play dead and say, hey, man, here you go, Malik Willis. Here's my starting job. I get that he wants to have some sort of level of competition, and just I can see it just as it's not really selfish, I would say, but like, hey, man, I got to keep my spot here type of thing.
Well, I mean, the thing is, if he wants to keep his spot, then don't throw an interception against the Bengals.
And that's the other side of the coin, right?
On the biggest play of the game.
Yeah. And I think, but I also think mentoring doesn't necessarily mean surrendering. I think you can mentor a guy without saying, hey, man, you're just going to be the franchise quarterback. So let me just,
But he said he doesn't even feel like he needs to mentor him.
Right. Which I think that was kind of disappointing and weird too. Because you can certainly mentor a guy without having them, without surrendering your job as a whole. You
can mentor someone without being all like, okay, yeah, please have the job. Like,
yeah. And it happens every training camp in the NFL. I remember watching the Hard Knocks with the Cowboys, and Ezekiel Elliott was mentoring some of the running backs too, and teaching them how to do stuff. Happily. It's just part of the game. So and I don't think he felt threatened at all about his job. So there's a way to do it without it being a hey man, as you just said, here's my job type of thing. And I think AJ Brown he's a terrific player. He's a top 10 wideout. There's not too many guys like AJ Brown. There's not. With his type of production, I just told you 3 seasons he had 3,000 yards and 24 touchdowns. He's a red zone threat like I've never seen. And I think he puts unfair pressure on Treylon Burks. Now now fans are looking at him as be the next AJ Brown, be the next top receiver in the NFL in 3 years, and it's just not realistic for him. I don't think he's as nearly as good as AJ Brown was coming out of college, coming out of Ole Miss. And I really like Treylon Burks. I do. He's a top 3 receiver to me in this draft, but I just don't see him being as impactful as AJ Brown would have been in 2022. So to me, I think that it was a big step backwards for the Tennessee Titans coming out of this offseason.
Yeah.
But they still, still got Derrick Henry.
It's just,
They still got pieces to me to make to be competitive,
yeah,
but
I
they
think
won't be
people,
getting an easy buy.
yeah, I just think people say that like, yeah, I agree with you, but like, you also think, I mean, they got Robert Woods out of the Rams, which I mean, he still has some juice to him if he can stay healthy. Um, I think he'll be a great mentor for Traylon Burks. It's just the
Mm,
only thing about Robert Woods is like he's learning about Tennessee just like Traylon Burks is. So
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, there's only so much he'll be able to help from you know playbook aspect and stuff like that. But I mean, Robert Woods will be able to help from like technique aspect and stuff like that, which will be helpful.
I like Robert Woods. I do. But again, I'm not looking at him as a game
Oh
changer,
yeah, yeah,
by no means. And he's definitely can't fill the shoes of AJ Brown. I don't care how many targets you get him. It's just not
yeah.
happening. Um, so, this moving on. Um, what is the future? We kind of answered this question. So let's go to question 3. Do you see Malik starting in the near future? How many years would you give the Tennessee Titans before we see Malik Willis, the starting quarterback, under center?
Like I said, there's no timetable for this. I mean,
Mm,
it's just whenever he's ready.
yeah,
Let's be honest. You have Tannehill as long as you want. I think it could be up to 2 years. I think it could be into week 8 of this season. Um,
right.
it's just one of those things. Like one, how does Malik play, and two, how does Tannehill play? I mean, if Tannehill wets the bed again, then we'll see Malik much sooner.
Yeah,
If Malik isn't there, you know, athletically and mentally as a quarterback, then I think even if Tannehill does do poorly, I think we will see Tannehill stay in until Malik is ready, which I think is perfect opportunity for the Titans. Not
right.
necessarily perfect opportunity for Malik, or necessarily the perfect opportunity for Tannehill, but it's the perfect opportunity for the Titans.
Yeah, it is. And I think Tannehill, going back to that comment, he doesn't want a mentor. He sees the writing on the wall. He's not. This has officially confirmed that he is not their long term solution
Oh yeah,
at QB, not their
yeah,
8 to 10 year franchise type of guy. He's going to get bounced. And
yep,
I think I think I give him what two solid seasons, 2022 and maybe 2023. And I think eventually, when he wants that new money, they're just going to let him go, because they have
yeah.
all the leverage right now. Hey, man, we have a young QB that can take your spot.
And he
If you
is
Right,
doesn't
listen,
cost
look,
as
look,
much
look,
as you do.
look. If he plays well, they'll say they don't have to. Oh, we're not going to pay you that much money because we have a young QB that can replace you. He plays
Yeah,
bad. Hey, man, we're just going to cut you and we're just going to move on with Malik Willis. Malik Willis gives them so much leverage no matter which position Ryan Tannehill finds himself in, whether he plays extremely well or whether he plays poorly. They still have a card in their hand that says, "Hey, man, we're not going to give you 150 mil." So, I like the move for the Titans, but as I said with Tannehill, he's in a very tough position, and but I think he has a job, in my opinion, for another 2 seasons at least. Um, so a lot of interesting stuff going on with the Titans, and I think they'll definitely be in our topics coming up in the near future for sure. But let's move on to the other team on the other side of this big blockbuster trade, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles, who some believe had the best draft, as I believe. The Eagles added AJ Brown, Jerkins, and Nakobe Dean. With these new additions also means more pressure, especially on Jalen Hurts. So we talked about this a little bit in the first topic. But is winning the NFC East too lofty of an expectation after this draft for the Philadelphia Eagles?
winning the division. No, no, that's not too often. I mean it's somewhat. expected sooner or later that they're gonna have to win if they it's not the Cowboys division. I mean, the Eagles are gonna have to make a move.
Yeah, yeah, I
The
like that.
Eagles are gonna have to make a move. I mean, you know, they can't let their arch rivals, Dallas Cowboys, continue to have their way in that division. I mean, I mean, I think you know, in the end, it's going to depend on how Jalen Hurts plays. And I
Absolutely,
think,
absolutely.
it's sad to see that there's that much pressure on Jalen Hurts, but it is. I mean, it's now or never. I mean,
Mm,
he has the weapons. They loaded up on defense. How many more excuses are you going to get?
yeah,
None. There's not enough. There's not enough excuses you can get. I mean, they're paying wide receivers so that you can, you know, ball out and throw it to them and get the wins. Which I believe Jalen Hurts can do. It's just I just I don't know. It's just hard to say that for certain that they're going to win the division, but the NFC is open for grabs in itself. Not even just the NFC East.
mm.
Like the NFC division in itself is wide open
Conference.
for anyone
Yeah,
to win.
yeah. You're right. You're right. I totally agree. No, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be a lofty expectation. This is the bare minimum, in my opinion, for the
Oh, yeah.
Philadelphia Eagles, who made the playoffs last year, being second in the division, and they certainly didn't have this type of talent as they have now.
Yeah,
This
that's a
season will
great point.
answer whether staying with Wentz, moving on from Wentz, and picking Jalen Hurts was a good decision. This is a big year for Howie Roseman. Trust me, and he knows that by getting all this talent and all these picks in the draft.
Yeah.
Wentz won you a couple of games with good talents around him. He set it up so well that the backup quarterback Nick Foles could go and make a Super Bowl run. So winning 6-7 games for Jalen Hurts, that's not living up to the expectations at all. Um, and I think Howie Roseman, it's a make or break type year for him, in my opinion, because if this goes wrong, we're looking at him sideways. Because as bad as Carson Wentz was in 2020, there's still stuff to work with here, and now he's on your rivals. The Washington Commanders. That looks pretty bad for the Eagles GM. So in my opinion, I think there's a good amount of pressure on this football team. I think there's a lot of pressure on Jalen Hurts. And they have to, in my opinion, have to win, have to at least make the playoffs, in my opinion. And I want to see him win a game. I don't want to see you get obliterated by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I want to see a competitive Eagles team going into the playoffs. I think
Yep.
that has to happen to me in order for me to look back on this season and say, man, this was very successful for Philadelphia.
Yep. I agree. I agree with what you just said. Yeah.
And let me talk about Jalen Hurts just a little bit. I think there's a lot of pressure on him, but I don't know if he cracks my top 3 spot in terms of QBs that have a lot of weight on their shoulders going into next year.
Do you
He's
think his job's on the line?
No, I don't think his job's on the line this season. Not this season. Not this season. Because
Really?
there is so much new stuff that's happening, new
That's
pieces, new
true.
players. I think
That's true.
I don't think, as worst case scenario, I think he gets another season and another try. Um, because I don't think they'll be as bad enough to draft a quarterback, in the high picks
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get
for
that. Yeah.
2023. But he just has to show improvements, and the type of numbers and statistics I would like to see from him to have a successful season in my book would be, you got to get up to that 3,500 yards, that yard mark, 3,000, low 3,000s. That's not good enough. 16 touchdowns. I like to see that go up to 25. And the 9 touchdowns, I would like to see that. I like to see that go maybe up to 10 to 12. And the only reason why I say 10 to 12 and go up higher is because I want to see him take more risk with the football. And honestly, if you take more risk in this league, you're going to get higher levels of interceptions. So, those are the type of numbers that if I see these type of numbers coming out of his 2022 season, I'm like, this was a pretty successful season, especially if they make the playoffs and were competitive in that game. I really did love Jalen Hurts. I still do love Jalen Hurts. I wanted my Steelers to draft him and the 2020 draft. And I think he just needs to be just literally his passing. That's it. He has a great mentality. I think, he's not the biggest quarterback, but he does so well with the size that he has. And I think he's a good decision maker too. So if I see these statistical numbers coming out of Jalen Hurts in 2022, I'm gonna feel pretty well about. If I was Howie Roseman, I would feel pretty well about that draft pick in 2020 and pretty well about the decision to move on from Carson Wentz.
Yeah. No, yeah. I agree. I like Jalen Hurts, but I don't know if I necessarily agree with him having his job if they don't make the playoffs.
Let's talk about that a little bit more.
I don't know. I think, I don't think he has as much, room and comfort as you may think. I mean, people were talking about maybe him leaving this year. Them trading for something or someone or someone. If I'm Jalen Hurts, I'm not feeling too comfortable right now. Not because I'm not good enough necessarily. It's just more of, the team is getting better and better. And
you think they're setting it up for maybe like a Broncos situation where the team as a whole is really, really good, but the quarterback position is the one really big need.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what we're starting to see, unless he really picks it up. I mean, I need to see a little bit more out of Jalen, if I'm being honest. There's some games last year that were like, how did you guys lose those games by that much? And
I agree with that.
And I was just like, I don't know. I don't think that the Eagles. I just feel like they have a lot of bad losses from last year that like kind of make you like wonder and like if they're actually real deal. I mean, think about it. Let's be honest. There wasn't really like 7 teams in the NFC last year that were like all Super Bowl teams. Like even though they made the playoffs,
not even close.
Even though that they made the playoffs, like if it was in the AFC, they wouldn't make. Like if the Eagles were in the AFC last year, they would not make the playoffs. And I just think that says a lot. I mean, and I think that's what they're looking at right now as a franchise. I think they look at the AFC and they're looking at these teams and like there's 10 good, really, really good teams, and there's going to be like 3 to 4 teams that are really, really good that are going to miss the playoffs next year. And in the NFC, we might see 1 or 2 teams in the NFC playoffs that aren't that great. Don't deserve to be there. And let's be honest, if they were in the AFC, they would be in the bottom half of the AFC. And I felt like that's how the Eagles were last year. I think they made the playoffs even though they weren't that solid of a team. I don't know.
I think the reason why I say Jalen Hurts doesn't have to worry too much is because, to be quite honest with you, a lot of the franchise type quarterbacks that if they were trying to position themselves to be like the next Denver, a lot of those top guys are signed. Like those franchise big names, are signed to long-term deals. So I don't know how much options they would have next year if Jalen Hurts doesn't necessarily perform too well. So that's why I think I give him a 2-year leash, because I think after the second year, regardless of whether there's options or not, they're moving on from him. So I think he's still safe maybe for 1 more year, in my opinion. But I definitely see that where you're coming from.
After this year.
I definitely see where you're coming from. But I don't know if I can go there quite yet with Jalen Hurts. Let's move on. Let's talk. What you got something else?
No. Let's move on. I'm ready.
Let's move on to some one of the best America's team, the true America's team.
No,
That's the Pittsburgh Steelers. One of the benefits of being a
that
host
is not the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Is that you can introduce the topic in maybe a semi-biased way.
No, you can't do that. No.
So America's team.
We're cutting this out.
The Pittsburgh Steelers, they got themselves a quarterback, bruh. Steel City was not quiet in the draft.
Chill out there, buddy.
Yeah, after they picked their first QB in the first round in 18 years, it's Kenny Pickett, the Pittsburgh native who went to college for 5 years. That's something that you talked about a lot in our mock draft or our QB rankings. A 5-year Pittsburgh player. And Malik Willis was still on the board, the guy that we were both very, very excited about. So, in short, was this the right choice by the Steelers to go with Pickett over Willis? Talk to me.
No. You need Malik. You need Malik. You should have gone Malik here. I mean, or just not a QB at all and just wait until it comes to you and maybe the second round. Considering, how far the QBs fell in itself. I think Kenny Pickett already has a short leash and he is a rookie QB. I know that sounds crazy. He just
got out of the league and he's already looking out for his job. My goodness. Come on. Go.
I would go that far to say that. I mean, if the Steelers have if he starts the season and plays the whole season and he leads the Steelers to a losing record, which they haven't had under Mike Tomlin, then I could see them just moving on right away. I really do. I feel that about everyone in this draft class. To be fair, just because I don't think this draft class was that great. So that's why for QBs, at least for QBs, and that's why I feel this way about Kenny Pickett. I think there's too much talent on the Steelers in itself for them not to have a winning record or be decent, even with a subpar QB. Especially with the first round QB. I mean, this guy's going into a perfect opportunity, a team that just made the playoffs.
He is.
Has one of the best defenses, if not the best defense in the league. And a solid O-line, good enough to, be able to be a mobile QB and stay alive. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, obviously Big Ben wasn't that, and that's why the O-line looked as bad as it was. But I mean, think about it. If you put Lamar or someone in there like that, they would be able to, the O-line would look so much better than it actually was, just because they wouldn't have to worry about Big Ben, being so, nimble or being so like stiff in the pocket. So I think, Kenny Pickett is going to really make this O-line better, or at least look better. And then also you have Deontay Johnson and George Pickens. I mean, I know you got rid of Juju Smith-Schuster, but let's be honest, what did he really do last year?
Yeah. Nothing.
And you'll also have and you'll also have the tight end. What's his name?
Pat Shiremuth.
Yeah. No, Well, I don't Firemuth or whatever.
All I remember is they would like move every time he grabbed a football.
Yeah, but he is one of the best tight ends in the league.
Yeah.
And I think he's a rising star. But I that's why I think Kenny Pickett has such a short leash already going in the league. I don't think he's going to be that great of a QB. I think that was actually a win for the Ravens that the Steelers got someone with so low upside. I mean, I think you just know what you're getting with Kenny Pickett.
I think there's some truth to what you said, but I can't go that far by no means. This was definitely the safest pick out of any of those QBs.
That's true. It's the safest. Yeah,
it's the not a lot of question marks, and I think this is a sign that They want to start young soon. And I thought they were going to go the direction, hey, we have a couple filler QBs in the next couple of seasons, and then we'll go young. But they said we want to start the process now. I think if anyone's on the short leash, it's the guy called Mitchell Trubisky. I think he's playing the same role that what's the guy that he took his spot back in 2017? Glenn Allen. Glenn Allen, I think. For
No,
that,
I
this
don't
was a
know.
QB for the Bears.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
exactly. And so he's kind of playing the opposite position that he was in 2017. I didn't love the pick. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't love the pick, but I would have definitely wanted, someone that had a little bit of your quarterback's qualities and Malik Willis. I think it's, been long overdue that we have somebody that at that position that's that dynamic. And I don't think Pickett's going to give us that at all. But I don't completely hate this pick. He is a veteran. To you,
What
that was
sounds weird? What sounds weird saying as a
yeah,
rookie?
yeah. To you, that was a downside because you expected more after him playing 5 years. To me, I think it's a positive. He's coming in. You don't have to coddle him as much as maybe a Malik Willis or a Matt Corral. He knows the game. He knows the facility. He knows the city. It's a lot more opportunity for him to just focus on football. And I don't love it, but I understand it, and I trust this front office. I really do trust this front office when they make big decisions like this. I was hoping for the last two drafts that they would draft a QB, but they finally did it now, and I'm not over the board. I'm not doing jumping jacks, but I'm not crying about it either. And so I definitely respect this pick. I do. We'll go to our next question under this topic. I think you kind of already answered it, but do you see him ever being a franchise cornerstone quarterback for us? Do you think he's the next Big
I
Ben?
really don't. I really don't. I think he already has a short leash. I don't know. I just have that feeling. I just
Yeah.
feel like the Steelers
You think
like
it's
him.
just
I don't
like
know.
you're saying this
I
is
don't know.
kind of like a
Josh Rosen.
Josh Rosen, yeah,
Yep.
situation.
I really do. I
Wow.
think the Steelers like him, but I don't know if they love him.
Mm.
Um, I think obviously Mike Tomlin, knowing Mike Tomlin, I know he's gonna, get him ready, get him right. I just I don't know. Like we don't even know if he's gonna start. That's another thing that's kind of like concerning
I'd be
for
shocked if he starts, if I'm being honest with you.
well that's is that not concerning as a Steelers fan
Mm.
considering he was the first QB taken in draft
But
and
but but as you said, none of these QBs are really to write home about. It's a very comparing them to other draft classes. It's not it's not great. So I think although he was the first QB taken off the board, I don't think you can really use that against him in terms of him not being the starter day one because the draft class is weak as it is. You see what I'm saying?
yeah, I see what you're saying. I
But
just
I
I
get
don't know.
that. I see that. I think a Josh Rosen situation would shock me if I'm being honest with you because I just think that's not
Would
how
you
the
say?
way.
Say that again. Sorry, say that again.
I think a Josh Rosen situation would shock me as a Steelers fan because that's just not the way I think we run our organization as a whole. Um, it wouldn't shock me if the fans wanted a Josh Rosen situation to happen
Yeah,
after this year, but it would shock me if the front office goes that direction, especially drafting a quarterback in the
yeah,
first round.
I agree with that point.
Um,
That's a true point.
I think I can see him being, I'll never see him. I don't think he'll ever be a top five quarterback. We could just get that out the way. But I do see him being kind of a stable, smooth, steady quarterback for us, maybe in the next, 6, 7 years.
How does
Um,
that give you hope though, as a Steelers fan though? I mean, like,
because I think
think
there's other guys who has been that, and their teams have done well. Guys like Matt
you
Ryan.
really think you can win a Super Bowl with like a like? Don't get me wrong. I agree. I agree with that point. I think he has a chance. I think his upside is a game manager, but like, why would you can find a game manager in Baker Mayfield and you don't have to waste a first round pick on him. And like, and he's young too. It's just like one of those things like I most people don't see him as a top five QB. It's like, can you win a Super Bowl with that?
I think you can win a Super Bowl without a top 5 QB. I think
I mean, especially with your defense, maybe, but even still, like you guys had Big Ben. Let's be honest. Big Ben was a game manager back half of his career. Y'all didn't win a Super Bowl.
But I think I could see Kenny Pickett being a little bit more than a game manager to me. I could see his upside to me. I think that goes as far as maybe Derek Carr and Matt Ryan. I think that's where we disagree. Is that you see his upside as being a game manager. I see his upside potentially
Yeah,
being
I agree with
a
that.
guy
I
like
agree
Derek
with
Carr,
that.
and I think Derek Carr can win you a Super Bowl with the right team around
Really?
him. Um, so you know, I think he's more athletic than I think you're getting him credit for. I saw a lot of him plays where he's running hard, he's running well outside the pocket. He's tough in that way. I think he's great in terms of intermediate throws. I want to see a little bit more arm out of him, but I think it wouldn't shock me the next 3 years if we were talking about him the same way we're talking about a Derek Carr. And if this defense remains consistently good, I can see us making some noise in the AFC. Again, I don't love it. I do not love this pick, but I can't go that low as you're going because I do see some potential there to keep us afloat and Steel City, and possibly maybe getting into that AFC championship game or win a Super Bowl maybe. But let's move on. This season we'll test that. This season is a big year for us as the Steelers
No,
Nation
I
as a
agree.
whole, and so I'm definitely interested, and I'm glad we got some different perspectives. I want to see which one pans out in the future. All right, man. To wrap up this pod, let's talk about. We have some honorable mentions here. DeAndre Hopkins got suspended last week, and his excuse was just hilarious, in my opinion. He's a professional athlete, but all of a sudden he doesn't know what he puts into his body. I don't know what I put into my body, and come on, man. You are a top paid receiver. You got guys working around the clock for you. You know what you put in your body. You know what you don't put in your body. Come on, man. I mean, you've been doing this since college. I don't take that excuse. Just man up to it. You see a lot of these young receivers that are coming into the league. They're faster. They're stronger. They're a dime a dozen, and you're worried that Arizona Cardinals might not renew your contract in the near future. So you gotta get tougher. You gotta get stronger. You gotta get faster. You got to produce for them because you have been injury prone a little bit over these last 2 seasons. So I think that his excuse was bogus, in my opinion. And I'm disappointed that he went that route instead of just being honest and being truthful about it.
Yeah.
But I didn't like the suspension time either. 6 weeks compared to a guy that bet $1,000 and he's
I was
out
about
a
to say the
whole
same
paycheck.
thing.
It's baloney. I think the NFL should be ashamed of themselves because I think this type of stuff has happened
Terrible.
before.
Terrible. No, I agree. The fact that he gets suspended for 6 weeks and Calvin Ridley gets suspended for a whole year for betting, and D Hop used drugs to help his performance as a player. I just it really does really make me upset, make me mad.
Yeah.
Just because I'm tired of the way the NFL runs their findings and stuff like that. It's just really sad.
Yeah.
And especially with teams like this. I mean, the Falcons, what are they going to do? Maybe have a winning season, maybe.
Yeah.
And what are the Cardinals going to do? Super Bowl contenders. It's like one of those things. Like, you got to pick your poison. You're hurting a team that's already down,
Right.
and then you're making a team that's already good even better by giving them that grace to not suspend him anymore.
Yeah. Moving on, let's go through these last couple three pretty quick. Derek Stingley, 3rd overall. That was a big shocker to me. I didn't think he was going to go that high, especially over Sauce Gardner. What was your reaction to that?
I think I was surprised. I thought Sauce Gardner was better cornerback,
Me
but I
too.
think the upside Derek Stingley brings could make him the best QB in this cornerback in this draft. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Cowboys and Patriots, as we talked about, graded the worst draft class for under Mel Kiper. Um, again, we kind of talked about
Not
this a little bit
surprised.
early on, but that was
Not,
shocking because I think these not shocking that they were graded worse, but shocking that they had such a bad draft because I thought
yeah. Oh yeah. 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 Yeah.
these
For
two
sure.
teams
For sure.
really, especially the Cowboys, as they lost so many pieces, having the worst draft class rated by Mel Kiper is not what you wanted to see coming
Yeah.
out of this. Um, and then
I agree with you.
This is a shocking one for me. OBJ, Julio Jones, Jarvis Landry. 3 years ago, these guys would be listed as the top wide receivers in the NFL. They are still unsigned. Which teams do you see after the draft snagging them now?
Um, I don't know about OBJ or Julio. I'm sure OBJ will probably just stay in with the Rams, but I hope the Ravens get Jarvis Landry. Actually, I
Mm,
think there's still some juice in his
yeah,
tank. The
yeah.
only thing about
I
Julio
would love
Jones,
that pickup for y'all.
yeah, I know, I would too. I mean, it would be veteran experience for our young wide receiver staff, but and he'll be a solid like wide receiver 2 or 3, maybe one in certain circumstances,
Mm,
just because the expertise in the veteran play he has. But Julio Jones just like doesn't seem like he can stay healthy, and seems like he's just in the back half of his career, ready to retire. Um,
yeah,
and I
yeah.
could also see another pairing with Matt Ryan, maybe Julio Jones and Matt Ryan, and then OBJ. After the torn ACL, I don't know. There's just too much uncertainty about
Yeah.
OBJ.
I mean,
I mean,
uh-huh.
go ahead,
Yeah,
go
yeah.
ahead.
Jarvis Landry is definitely the safest pick out of the three. But it's just shocking how things can change. No way you would told somebody in 2016 these guys are going to be unsigned after free agency, after the
Yep.
draft. They were just like, "What? Are you out of your mind? These guys are going to be cornerstone wide receivers for the next 5, 6, 7." But things change real quick.
Yep.
I'm shocked. Jarvis Landry is the one that I'm shocked is still up there because I think he definitely has some value. And I think
Yeah.
he ended the season relatively healthy too. Um, so I think, yeah, Ravens, that would be a good pickup, especially losing Marquise Brown. That's definitely
Mhm.
a good signing to kind of lessen the blow in your
Yeah.
the wide receiving class. I guess wide receiving core for you guys. Um,
Mhm.
but that's all we have this week, guys. A lot to get through. But it was been such a joy doing this. We got a lot of this season is going to be very interesting, man. There's so many players that have a lot to prove, teams that have a lot to prove. It's going to be a heck of a season, just like last year's
I'm looking
was.
forward to it. I'm so excited for it.
Yeah. So subscribe, comment down below what you thought of this podcast for this week, and we'll see you guys next week. Peace out.